welcome, welcome. I am so excited today to have Judy Machado on our show. Hello, Judy. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Susan. It is such an honor, such a privilege to be here to speak with you, to speak with your audience. I'm so grateful on this beautiful day. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure and honor to have you as a guest here to talk about cacao rituals and ceremonies. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Cacao came into my life about 4 years ago, and it has completely transformed my life in so many ways. I'm excited about sharing with all of you how it's a master plant medicine, that there's so many things we don't typically, most of us are not aware of yet with cacao and with ceremonial cacao. So I'm excited to share all of that. It is such it's gonna literally create a radical shift in your relationship with chocolate, and I can promise you that.
I'm all like, do I need a radical shift with chocolate? We're pretty good friends right now.
Not so much guilt, right? Remove the guilt from it.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
When I'm dark chocolate, I don't feel so much guilt. So yeah. Why cacao, and what about it, aside from the fact that it's a sensual experience and it has antioxidants and it is potentially good for us, why is it a medicine? Like, how does it help us?
Yeah, if it's okay, I'd love to share a story first
Sure.
Of how I came into cacao, because it's also relevant and so beautiful with that beautiful question you just asked. My brother-in-law, about 4 years ago, went out to Peru to be in the jungles with the Shipibo tribe. And he went to spend 14 days to do a plant medicine journey called ayahuasca with this beautiful Shipibo tribe, and came back completely transformed. So had so many anxieties, social anxieties, fears, and had this beautiful intention of, let me get to the bottom of this. I don't even know why I'm afraid of everything. I'm open. And he came back completely transformed from this beautiful journey with plant medicines, and said that the tribe, that they were talking a lot also about cacao. There were cacao trees all over the center in the jungle, and that he was learning about cacao and how cacao is a plant medicine. And he suddenly had this dream to start this bean to bar 2-ingredient chocolate company. And he said to me, because he knows that I've just been building businesses most of my life as an entrepreneur, would you help me to build this bean to bar chocolate company? And at the time, I didn't know anything about, ceremonial cacao. I just knew about chocolate and so in love with chocolate, and said, of course, I'd love to help you build this chocolate company. I love chocolate. And at the same time, listening to him expressing these stories that he had learned about the tribes and these cacao ceremonies and ceremonial cacao, and it's a plant medicine. And it created in me an incredible fire and awakening to plant medicines. I just needed to know everything about what plant medicines were. What are they? How do they help us? How is cacao, which I thought was just chocolate, and it was just a sweet, thing that we all love, the number one food in the world called chocolate. I couldn't understand how the main ingredient for the number one food in the world was actually something called a plant medicine. It was here to help us raise our consciousness. I just couldn't understand it, and I had to experience all of it. And that was when I just started to research. I had this beautiful shaman come into my life, started to experience some cacao ceremonies. I really wanted to learn everything. And basically some of the history is this beautiful plant. This is what cacao looks like. Isn't this beautiful? This is a pod, an enormous pod. And you can kind of hear, it's dry right now, but in here is a fruit. And inside the fruit are little seeds. They look like coffee beans, but they're cacao seeds. And in each of these, there's about 30 to 40 of these seeds. And it's in the seed that our beautiful indigenous families and ancestors, and even today, have learned to grind those, what's in the seeds, which is the cacao, the raw cacao, mix it with water, and then sit either yourself or with a group, with another person in ceremonially drinking this cacao, understanding that it is actually a consciousness. It is a higher consciousness that is here. These plant medicines, all plants are either medicinal or they're teacher plants. And the teacher plants are the ones, when we drink or we consume them, they take us into an elevated space. They take us into an elevated space beyond our current level of consciousness. Because as we know, we're here on Earth School, we have all these, we're here literally to journey through these levels of consciousness. And most of us aren't familiar with that. And I'll tell you, the most fascinating, beautiful thing is to learn about consciousness and these layers and expanded levels of consciousness, because then we start to really understand why there's so much duality in this world. Why do, what's quote unquote bad things happen? And why do good things happen? And why do sometimes those things happen to me? And where do I fit in? And what's my role? And so with plants, these master plant medicines, which cacao is one of them, some typically master plant medicines are psychedelic, typically. So we've heard of things like ayahuasca, some other plant medicines, psilocybin, beautiful mushrooms. And so sometimes we think, okay, well, I'm a little nervous. I've never had that before. What's going to happen to me? The beautiful thing is those plant medicines are just as powerful. And cacao is not a psychedelic. Okay. So that's what I love about it, is that there's nothing really to be afraid of. It's the number one incredible, most beautiful, favorite food of all of humanity. And in its pure form, without any sugars, without any processing, when you drink it with intention, understanding that it is a consciousness, and you speak to it and you ask for support in whatever it is you're looking for, you just ask, you surrender and ask for that next level of evolution for you, the cacao starts to work with you. And I'm going to explain in a minute how that works. Basically, the plant medicine cacao is here to help us with our heart chakra. It's here to help us to open up our heart chakra. And so that's why some, when they drink it, they feel a little bit of fire around the heart, a little bit of heat. It helps us to open up our hearts. So the cacao is a very gentle master plant medicine. It's not a psychedelic, very gentle, very gently. It helps us to open up our hearts so we can start to feel our emotions. Sometimes people feel either a little bit of sadness at first, because typically your heart, we have so many layers of stories and pain around our heart. And so cacao is here to help us just start peeling them one at a time, very gently, so that we can just gently start to release those stories and get to the core of who we really are. And so cacao helps us with our heart, open up our heart so we can feel our emotions and we're present with these feelings. And then it starts to sprinkle into our awareness some of our stories or our beliefs that have been holding us back. So those might be limiting beliefs, limiting stories, everything. The only way to raise in consciousness, to expand in consciousness, is to change our belief, because our belief is what creates our reality, right? So we have these patterns in our life, as we all know, and they're based on our beliefs. If we believe it's hard to make money, then these patterns continue in our life, where situations, events come into our life to create that reality for us. So when we change our belief, we actually change our reality. The new circumstances, everything comes into place for us. And so cacao is here to help us, because we love to hold on so tight to our stories and our limiting beliefs, right? Because we've told them a million times to people. We have an excuse for why something in our life isn't happening, and it's a really good excuse. It's hereditary, or this thing here. And that's our story. We've said it so many times, but the moment cacao slows us down, it opens up our heart, slows us down with something called theobromine, which is an ingredient, literally a benefit within the cacao, theobromine, which is very cool. It actually helps us to slow down and gain incredible creative insights, really fast insights at the same time. It helps us to experience the duality of movement. It's really incredible. And so you're in a slower state so that your heart's wide open. The cacao is sprinkling these thoughts, memories, stories, smells, something that's just going to be sprinkled into your awareness. Some of it's going to be a trigger. It might be a trigger, something that you're like, oh, I'm remembering that person who texted me yesterday. I'm so pissed off. You're getting these reminders, but with your heart open and with your slowness and your new creativity, the theobromine that's in the cacao, you're able to sit and see the other perspectives.
Nice.
Because when we held on to our stories and our limiting beliefs, we don't want to see other perspectives because we're so comfortable with this story, right? We're like, no, this is my story. This is why I can't get to there. But when we're in this beautiful place with this master plant medicine, this consciousness that's ever so gently helping us to experience a journey, and it's a silent journey that happens within you, and it just happens. It's this journey that happens, and you get this thought, and then you, if you're open to the thought, and if you've had a sacred intention, you've when you're drinking the cacao, you have a sacred intention, you invite the cacao. You know, this is one of the things that I learned when I was first introduced to cacao. I felt that I wasn't very intuitive. I felt that I had to always ask others for insights into my future, into me, you know, what should I do about this decision? And I really wanted to really tap into my own intuition. And with the cacao, what I learned on my own is that when you speak to the cacao, the consciousness, when you invite it to come into your awareness, when you invite it to take you into its higher consciousness, and when I share an intention, you know, sometimes I have no intention. I'm just like, take me on a journey. Tell me what that next thing is for me. And sometimes I'll say, you know, this one thing's really bothering me. This person texted me and I can't get over it. And I'm just so upset with that. Can you help me to get to the root? Because what is with that? Why am I so disappointed with that text? Help me get to the root of that. And then drink my cacao, sit in silence, enjoy, just sit in this space of just allowing and having no expectation as well. That's another beautiful thing that cacao helps us is sometimes we'll drink and we'll think, okay, I drank for 20 minutes or an hour. Don't really feel like I got some incredible insight. Well, maybe it's because you had an expectation, right? It's teaching us. These plants are always teaching us that, again, the journey of the metamorphosis, the journey of the cocoon is the journey as well, being in that place of not knowing, in silence, waiting in that place. So it's just been an incredible journey for me throughout these years. I immediately started to drink cacao every single day. I felt like it was part of just, you know, for me, it was like, there's so many beautiful people I love to listen to, so many gurus or beautiful, you know, podcasts or videos that I love to listen to. And I thought, wow, I love that. And I also have this literally like a guru here. It's a consciousness. It's a higher consciousness that I can speak to every day and drink and invite it into my world, invite it to take me into its world, its higher perspective, go on this journey, be in this elevated space without it being a psychedelic. So I could drive, I could work, I could do this for 3 minutes, I could do it for an hour, whatever it is. And then because I was drinking it every day and because I was getting these incredible insights, new affirmations, some of which I'd love to share with you, that I felt that being in that elevated state every day just started to bring me more and more permanently into those places, right? And that I felt was so important, especially during the last 2 years where, you know, the whole world has changed. There's so much chaos happening around us. And I felt like that has been such an enormous gift because sometimes we can look outside of us and we can feel like there's no hope. You know, where are we going with this? What's happening? And then when we are brought into this higher space, we just remember why it's all happening, how it's the most incredible time in humanity right now, this shift. It is the metamorphosis. It is the uncomfortable part. What is my part in it, right? What can I do, including just being present and holding space and being in this place of love? And maybe there's also another calling for you. Maybe there's something you're going to express the love that you are in some physical way as well, through some, you know, business. But all this clarity starts to come through because we're speaking to the consciousness. That's what I found. And so I started to find, oh, I have a decision to make. Let me sit within, let me ask within, and the messages, the intuition, the insights, the knowings came to me right away. And this has been one of the most beautiful gifts, is coming from a place of feeling like I wasn't intuitive, feeling like everybody else had these gifts except for me, to a place of feeling so grateful, feeling like I'm part of the oneness, understanding that we all have these gifts. We all just have beliefs. That's what it was. Really, for me, it was a belief that I didn't have the gift. The moment I went, wait a minute, I do have the gift. I do have the gift too. It's always been there. It's always been there for all of us. So I'm going to just bring it out of me. And it's just creating an awareness, acknowledging where we're at, creating a vision of what we would like. I would love to access my intuition, and then shifting the belief. And it can happen overnight, or it can happen through time. For me, it happened. It took a little bit of time, took some drinking, took some getting some real confirmations, getting some insights, getting some incredible knowings, and then accessing, just constantly going within instead of the typical, hey, friend, girlfriend, I have a question. Can you help me figure out what I should do next? Or whatever it is, whatever ways that we tend to get our information. And so it's been so beautiful, so beautiful. And it is a joy and a pleasure and an honor, honestly, to share this way of drinking cacao, this ceremonial experience that, again, the indigenous have known for thousands of years. And I really feel, well, why haven't we known? Why haven't the masses known? They've been so connected to Earth, so holding that space for Earth. How come we haven't known, for the most part, many of us? And how is it now? Like you said at the beginning, it seems like ceremonial cacao is becoming more known. And it is. And I believe it's because we're ready. I believe that much of humanity is ready and knows that now is the time. Now is the lifetime to elevate, to shift. And so we're ready for that higher consciousness. And that's what cacao is doing, is bringing us into a place of really seeing beyond what our story is, seeing the possibility beyond the story, right? And when we see that possibility, of course you want to change the story. The story is like, oh my God, I can't believe, wow, but you're going to honor and love that story and let it go. And it certainly served you up until now, but you see the possibility beyond the story. And it's such a magical thing. And that's how we're all, transforming together and transforming the collective. And that's what my wish is. My personal wish is that every single person on Earth starts their morning with ceremonial cacao. How incredible would that be? Just with a sacred intention, drinking it ceremonially, inviting it to share more of the goodness from the higher space, the higher consciousness. And it's just such a pleasure to just share this.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it, because it would take so many of us, so many entrepreneurs especially, and so many people who are more into witchiness or nature lovers or people like that, are really kind of stepping into this space that you're talking about, where they are doing more ritual and adding more ritual into their lives. Well, if you add a cacao ceremony to that time before your meditation, to that time before you journal, to that time when you wake up and you're in that flux zone between, where your consciousness is really open and able to connect with the earth and the world around you, then massive shifts can take place. And I love the fact too that you brought up such an important thing in turning inward into your own intuition and allowing yourself to open up and understand that you too have intuition and you too are capable of accessing guidance from the earth around you, and that you don't necessarily, right now there are a lot of people, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or anything, but going to South America or going here or there to see a traditional indigenous shaman, and with our limited travel capabilities in some places right now, being able to bring that experience home and sit with it, and is just a gift. Like you said, it's a gift where we're really able now to connect with the higher consciousness in a way that perhaps we hadn't been for a really long time.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, the journey within. And what I found with the cacao is, at the beginning, I found I was just so like, wow, this is what I'm so, am I worthy to communicate directly? And it took a little bit of wow, and then experiencing it and being so honored, so much reverence. And what I found, especially through this continuum of drinking almost every day the cacao, and staring onto the surface and this hypnotic surface and layers, what I found in bringing so much honoring and reverence to it is that the cacao started to mirror back to me the sacredness and the honoring and the reverence that I am. And that's part of our journey, right? It's part of our journey. And for me, and for some of us, we find it in other things, such as the plant medicines, oh my God, so reverent, so sacred, it's so beautiful. Or it's a guru that we're so excited to go listen to and hear. And oh my God, this is so incredible. And as we start to really take in the information and remember who we are, we remember that we are them. We are all of it. And just like you said, we remember our wisdom. We remember who we are. We remember this beautiful journey that we're on here, which can only come from within.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 And as a person who's a reader and everything like that, it's my goal right now is shifting from being a reader to teaching people how to read.
Yeah.
Because for yourself, there's this feeling or the visualizations that you get when you're in meditation, or just the gut, instincts that you have. But yeah, that's so beautiful. And you teach these ceremonies online, right?
Yeah, so I host cacao ceremonies as well for anyone who'd like to experience. Each cacao ceremony is different. I have a message that came through during one of my ceremonies to do a separate ceremony to honor Mary Magdalene, honor her gospels that were found, honor her story of, the kingdom is within us, just beautiful. So I do a ceremony for her and to honor her and to honor the spirit within us, her spirit within us. It's awakening spirit of speaking our truth. And then there's some that have chanting, some that have drumming. So yes, I host beautiful cacao ceremonies and I teach others how to enjoy their own morning ceremony, morning or afternoon, whatever works for them. But I say morning because I like to share what my experiences have been. And my experience in the morning is so incredible because it's a way to start the morning, but it's also a way, I'm going to work or do whatever I'm doing throughout the day, and the cacao stays with me. And so that creative energy, the slowness of, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's this? And then the creative energy is just so beautiful.
Yeah. It sounds like it. Now, all of these questions start popping up and I have to write them down. So this is a plant that's only found in South America, correct?
Yeah, it's basically, it's really interesting, the origins. So cacao is called Theobroma cacao.
Okay.
That is the real name, our sort of human name for this plant. And Theobroma is Greek, and Theo means God or goddesses, and Broma means food. So food of the gods and goddesses. And yeah, legend has it that the gods and goddesses were, observing all the dimensions and planets and galaxies, and they felt it was time to help Earth School, the humans on Earth School, to elevate, to remember who we are. And so they decided to come and sprinkle seedlings of their food into our jungles. And that is the Theobroma cacao. And so it's really incredible. You think, wow, of all the food in all of the world, this is the only food called food of the gods and goddesses. What makes this so special? And then you realize that, yeah, there's the mind, the body, and the spirit element of the cacao. So the spiritual side we just talked about, right? The spiritual side, which is the fact that it's a plant medicine. It can communicate with you. It works with you to help elevate you, to evolve in consciousness. Then there's the body, the mind, and the body. So what does it do for the mind? What does it do for the body? It's the original superfood. It's packed with magnesium, copper, iron. I mean, there's so much goodness in this food. Such an incredible food for us for every day, even to enjoy. So whether you're just drinking it every day, or for some, they want to bake with it, or maybe make a protein shake or something like that, that's great as well. But it is such a beautiful food gifted to us by the gods and the goddesses.
Nice.
And actually, oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just saying the shape of this. I love to share this too, because this is very interesting. Most people have no idea that cacao chocolate comes from a fruit, that this actually is a fruit in here. So there is a fruit in here. It tastes delicious. It's kind of mixed like a lychee and a mango kind of taste mixed together. It's white. And it's really cool because it looks like a pod. And what happens is this grows on the trunk of the tree after the little flower. First, the little flower grows on the trunk of the tree. And what's really cool is that the cacao is both masculine and feminine, has both masculine and feminine energy. So the flower can self-pollinate. And so what happens is the cacao has both masculine and feminine energy. Think of our journeys, right? Most of us come to Earth or Earth School, with one of those more prominent than the other, the masculine or the feminine. Right. And we go through this journey and this dance of really balancing them, bringing them together. And so the cacao is here to help us. It has both the masculine and the feminine equally. And it's just such a beautiful way also of thinking of how this is the food of the gods and the goddesses, right? In terms of, it's just such a powerful, powerful food.
What it sounds like. And especially you're just like telling us about the nutritional properties as well. So it's not just something that's going to help you elevate yourself to a higher consciousness. It's also going to nourish your cells and support your health, which is to me, in my opinion, is a primary condition for elevating to higher levels within your body. It helps, so having that healthy state of your body is important as well.
Yeah. And even think of your mind. So the mind, the body, and the spirit. The mind, so many people are struggling with depression right now, or just unclarity, ease, anxiety. And the cacao has so many incredible properties which help us to feel better. So for example, there's serotonin, dopamine, anandamide, PEA. Those are 4 alone that help us to feel better. And one of them is even a chemical that is similar to when we feel like we're in love. We feel like infatuation, that feeling of infatuation. So how wonderful is that we can have this, natural way also of helping to lift us up in our moods every day as well. So it's just within every single way, it is the most beautiful original superfood gifted to us by the gods and the goddesses that happens to also be an elevated consciousness that can help us literally take our hands so gently and start showing us some of our fears, some of our stories, and how there's so much more beyond that those are really just our stories that we've either picked up from others or that we've just been carrying. And this beautiful magical medicine can help us to just see beyond it and let it go and just step into a whole new reality for ourselves.
That sounds wonderful. I think many of us have one foot in the other consciousness and one foot, kind of reaching for that higher place right now. And so this is not like cocoa that you can buy in the store, though, is it?
So there's a difference between cacao and cocoa. It's even spelled a little different. CACAO and CACOA, cacao, right? Cocoa or cocoa. So what that is cacao is the pure, it comes in the seed. It's the pure, nothing's been added to it. Nothing's been removed. It's the pure plant medicine, cacao. Cocoa is when they've processed it. So it's now becoming chocolate. So they've over processed it. They mix it, they heat it, they process it. Most of the time, cocoa has sugar in it. It might have other ingredients in it. If you look at the packaging, if you're buying cocoa. So if you are working with the plant medicine, you definitely want to make sure that you have ceremonial cacao. And what that is so there's cacao and there's ceremonial cacao. Ceremonial cacao is where all the steps from the planting all the way to how you received it, everyone's aware of the fact that it's a plant medicine and honors that intention. And so that's the ceremonial cacao, so that when you have it, it's already an elevated energy. All the energy has been brought into it. Now, again, we can talk about how we can bring even our own elevate and make anything ceremonial. That's a whole other, I think, podcast you can have. But for, especially important to purchase the ceremonial cacao so that you can enjoy that higher vibration, that higher element. And then bring your beautiful sacred intention and vibration to it. And what's interesting is I was doing a little bit of traveling earlier this year, January to April, I think it was. I went to visit a few countries that didn't have any restrictions, and one of them was Tanzania. And I knew that I knew that Africa, most of the chocolate, most of cacao is harvested over 90% from Africa. And most of that, not all of it, but most of it comes from different regions where they have a lot of child slave labor. And it's a really, really, it's something that is going to be transmuted over the next few years. And a lot of the chocolate companies, the big chocolate companies, are purchasing from them. And so when I went there, I had this thought, this feeling that I'm going to buy some of that cacao, and I'm going to buy the cacao that doesn't say ceremonial cacao. And I'm going to add some of that cacao into my ceremonial cacao when I was there, when I was drinking, because I really felt like I wanted to experience that cacao, the energy, the earth, and then bring this love and energy and mix it with the ceremonial cacao and help to bring that energy to the land, to the harvesting, to the children, to the people, to everybody that's involved in this, just as a part of just sending that intention of love, so we can just get back to a place of where everything is harvested with love. And so that was an interesting experience for me in taking something and adding it to the ceremonial cacao. And also, I also encourage during my ceremonies too, and others, to mix your medicines. For example, cinnamon, pure raw cinnamon, is also a plant medicine. You can actually connect deeply with it. And so mixing cinnamon into your cacao, rose oil, rose water, any kind of essential oils. If you love essential oils, I love like a wild orange. So again, these are medicinal oils that you can add into that experience, and honor all of it together.
Oh, that sounds like, I've never thought of mixing those different elements into it and receiving the benefits. So you can make, more of a self-love, or vibrate higher, or an optimistic, or, the fire of ginger, perhaps, or, bringing those into your, very interesting.
I love to use ginger too. Oh, it's so beautiful. The essential oil, I put just a tiny little toothpick drop because it's so strong. It's so, so beautiful. Yeah. Some people in Mexico, the Mayans, in their indigenous ceremonies for thousands of years, they've used cayenne pepper as a little kick. So that's kind of their thing. So again, it's whatever comes to you. I go through periods where I want nothing in it. I just enjoy it on its own. And then I wish to bring in an essential oil on one day. It just depends how you're feeling. Everything is, what would you like to experience? Yes, there are these beautiful ways that we want to experience and honor, and we're going to experience those. And that's what I did. I need to experience the indigenous way of ceremonies. I need to experience all of it. And then I started to connect deeply with the cacao myself. I started to get these incredible affirmations, these knowings, started to ask, be so incredibly grateful, and say, cacao, how can I bring this to others? What can I do? Because it's been so helpful for me. How can I? And the guidance starts to come. The knowing starts to come. That's where I created my own brand. And then again, sharing in ceremony. So it's going to come for you too. Just asking. There's so many people who have, they do yoga or Reiki or other types of beautiful medicines too. And they're connected to cacao, and they're thinking, well, maybe I'd like to bring this medicine also with my beautiful tribe and community. And so I always say, I get a lot of people are like, how do I know when I'm ready? And I always say, here's your cup. I'm going to show you how to connect, and the cacao is going to tell you. Because that's how it is for me. Instead of, who am I to tell you you're ready? Do it. Right? It's, let me show you how you can just connect, because ultimately you're connecting with your heart anyway when you're going to connect. So it's helping us to go within. It's so beautiful.
Oh, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. So, and it seems too, like you were saying before, like we are in a period of history right now where people are open to connecting on a deeper level with themselves, with the earth, with these medicines, and being able to share them on a wider scale. Because I think for far too long, everything was closed down, and these things were either ridiculed or, even worse. And so these earth beings, these earth helpers, have persisted. And it's kind of funny too, cacao in and of itself has always been tied to love, has always had just this, kind of has wanted to be mainstream in a way, from if you want to look at the history of it and everything like that, and really kind of understand that it too has had a consciousness, and it too has had, kind of its own say in its history.
Exactly. It's so incredible. It's been, chocolate, we feel love, whether we have like a milk chocolate or something that's crazy over processed, we still feel love. So can you imagine the love that's being expressed in the pure form in the cacao? So it is the number one food that we think about for romance, love, a gift. It's so magical. And it's interesting, Susan, I've always felt that if it wasn't for our beautiful ancestors figuring out how to take the cacao seed, which literally was like gold. There was a time where it was treated like gold. To take the cacao seed, process it, and turn it into chocolate. If it wasn't for our ancestors figuring this out, I actually believe that the cacao would be illegal, just like many other plants are illegal, because that's how powerful and how elevating and evolving and accelerating it is for our journey, our spiritual journey through consciousness. And, we know that there's sort of a misunderstanding around plant medicine still. And like you said, many of them still are illegal, or, there's some misunderstanding. We don't, the information isn't openly shared at a mass level. And that's okay. That was just through this whole other journey of fear and control. But now we're all awakening and being open to it. I even think of another plant medicine like psilocybin, from mushrooms. Now that is a psychoactive, but that is another beautiful, if you've never had that, if you can experience that in a guided ceremony. So there are people who will guide you through it. So just a little bit and enjoy it and how you're feeling, and let's share. Beautiful experience. And again, why I absolutely love the cacao is because here's the number one, world's number one favorite food. And I'm telling, because I truly wish, I don't, for me, it's so important for me that people understand it's a plant medicine. So I bring that up all the time. And then they're like, well, what is a plant medicine? So the whole honoring and reverence, I believe, is important in understanding, acknowledging what it really is. And so people who have chocolate, at first they might think that's crazy. It's chocolate. Because that's what I felt too, right? What are you talking about chocolate in its pure form? Is that actual consciousness? That's ludicrous. But then it's like, well, why don't we try it? Why don't you sit and try it and see for yourself what you think? How does your heart feel? What's the experience you go through? And I always say too, you might have a beautiful experience the first time, but let me tell you, if you can bring this into your life most mornings or a couple of mornings a week, it's like anything, right? Bring consistency. And as I mentioned, it's an elevated consciousness. So the more we're in that space, it's like we know consciousness. If you were, let's say, whether it's linear or, however you want to describe consciousness, let's just say right now that it's this way. And we want to move up in consciousness, expand our consciousness. We can see more of why we're here and understand and be fully at peace. Our environment can also dictate our consciousness, right? So let's say we're like over here feeling really good, but then we watch the news, we're down into guilt, fear, shame, all that stuff. Right. And the more we watch the news, the more we're going to we're going to sort of fall in this space. Whereas the more we're up in this higher above us, let's say this is us, and we're up here in this, cacao consciousness world of experiencing, or any other plant medicine, experiencing what is actually outside of us, what is actually beyond our level, then the more we kind of shift up in that space. And so for me, doing this every day, I call it the magic carpet ride. And I love to talk about it, even though it's not a psychedelic. It is so incredibly powerful. It is probably one of the most gentle plant medicines because it's not a psychedelic, yet it is probably, in my opinion, one of the most powerful ones because of that. Because otherwise you go into the psychedelic ones with an expectation. Oh, I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes, for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and I'm going to experience this hallucinations and all this stuff. Whereas this, it's very much, even if you don't have time for a ceremony, just drink it as though you would your coffee, but set a little intention. bring ceremonial, honoring and reverence to it. Ask for something, invite it for you to have this beautiful day. And then watch what that's going to do for your reality. And one other thing I'd love to share, Susan, is one of the most incredible knowings that showed up for me in one of my ceremonies. And it really is, it's an affirmation. It's also a knowing. It's something I've brought into my day pretty much every day as I remember it. And it's something that came from the cacao consciousness. And that is this, acknowledging something. So let's say I would like to communicate. I would like to ask the cacao for some help with this one thing, this one particular block that I've identified in my life. So I will acknowledge where I'm at right now, because it's important to acknowledge what it is right now. What is it right now? Because then we bring it to life. We bring it to life. We're acknowledging it to be transmuted. So acknowledging it, and then I will state, the higher sort of vision. Here's what I'd love to be. I'd love to be in peace, unconditional love, that higher vision. Can you show me the roots? And, this is my belief. I'll state a belief, this is my belief with this thing that I have right now. This is my belief, but cacao, I'm open to changing my belief with new information coming to me from the higher consciousness. Mm-hmm. So every time I state a belief, even if I'm with somebody and I'll notice myself sharing a belief with them, I'll say, right, I just want to acknowledge that is my belief in this moment. But at the same time, I'm open to changing that belief when new information comes to me from the higher consciousness. Now we're inviting the higher consciousness to give us new information, not the lower consciousness. Because trust me, there's a lot of like the rabbit hole and lots of videos that we can get stuck in and all this stuff. But the higher consciousness is the place of the neutrality, right? Seeing other reasons so we can let go of the stories, seeing that everybody's here on a journey. Everyone's here experiencing consciousness in different ways. And so who are we to say they're wrong and I'm right? We're just experiencing different journeys. So getting into this elevated place of, wow, that real understanding that this is like literally almost like a beautiful game of remembering. That's really what I believe we're here for. I feel like I really believe that we have come to Earth School agreeing to forget who we really are so that we can experience the joy of remembering.
Right.
And part of Earth School is, and we have, we learn these sort of rules, I guess we can call them in Earth School, that there's spiritual laws, there's different dimensions, there's consciousness. And once we learn these things, that's what was the game changer for me. Because I was kind of floating around and I wasn't quite sure why things were happening. I was feeling a lot of suffering and pain. The moment I started to understand what is consciousness, because society teaches us you're either conscious or you're unconscious. You're in a bed and you're unconscious in a coma, or you're conscious. You're awake. Today you're conscious. Everyone's conscious. But when we understand that there's different layers of consciousness, that we are actually awakening to the fullness of who we really are. And one of the things that really is so beautiful for me too is really humbling myself and remembering that most of us, if you imagine a big circle as our fullness of infinite, oneness that we are, all of consciousness, and put like a little tiny pie slice in there. And that's typically where, many of us are at in consciousness. There's so much that we don't know yet that we don't know, right? And so it's like, yes, this is my belief. I am so strong in my belief right now with this one thing. However, because if we're not open, then we will stay always in that same level of consciousness. So, however, I'm open. If new information comes to me from this higher elevated place, I'm open to change that belief, because I know that there's so much I don't know yet up here. There's so much that hasn't been presented. I haven't stepped into yet. That's right in front of us, but we just don't see it yet because we're on a journey of experiencing. And so that's been really beautiful, sharing that, that's been a daily affirmation for me whenever I notice myself stating a belief.
Well, and that's good, because I think a lot of times that's been having the most negative effect recently, I feel like, and certain entities might be, kind of exacerbating the problem to benefit from it. But when you pull yourself out of it and you say, okay, you have your belief, that's nice. I don't, perhaps that's not my belief, but I'm not going to say that you can't have your belief, because that's your belief and you're free to have it. And the higher consciousness, like you said, has given us all these little, and it really depends on where you're at on your journey. And I don't want to say that in a competitive way, because a lot of people will take that to be like, oh, you think you're higher than me or whatever. And it's just like, no, I'm just different than you. I have a different perspective. It's not saying that I'm better or worse. It's just different.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just a different journey. I like to think of it as just like school, you know, like school has different grades. We're experiencing different grades. They're all fun. They're all amazing. They're all learnings. But when we pass the grade, we move to the next grade. And so new tests come into our awareness, new stories they teach us. So that's all it is. It's just different journeys that we're all experiencing. And yeah, and it's true. It's that humbling is so important, isn't it? Especially right now, because we can get so caught up right now. And I catch myself all the time too, you know, oh my God, is that seriously happening over there? And that's why we're here, right? The moment we stop doing that, we will have been enlightened and we would have moved on to maybe moon school or whatever the other school is now. Right. But that's part of the journey, is just catching ourselves and going, oh, did I just do that? Okay, let's go back into a place of remembering of why we're here and how everyone's experiencing their own journey. And I don't need to get involved in that. I can see that that's over there and I can just step back. And I think that's also the beautiful shift. I really believe cacao is here to help us, especially now in such an explosive way. Cacao is coming out of the jungles into our realities, into our worlds, because it's here to be that bridge between the 3D and the 5D. So the 3D is where we get to experience ourselves, experience all of it. And the 5D is where we get to observe and realize that we are the creator of the experience. And so how can we, instead of feeling like we have to be in it and, you know, this is affecting me, this world problem right here is now affecting me. You know, once we move into 5D, we can see how, oh, wait a minute, I can see it all out there. And I can see how it's actually, I'm going to create a different reality.
Right.
So it's so beautiful to really see cacao as that bridge to help us, that on that magic carpet, right? The carpet that's taking us over the bridge.
Well, and it's an easily accessible, not illegal, not scary, not going to, you know, you hear everybody, if you talk to them about other plant medicines, they're like, ooh, I heard about this person who, you know, and you're just like, okay, whatever, you know, I understand completely your hesitancy. But if you give them something that's so benign as cacao, and you just say, here you go. Now, okay, so I am an avid coffee drinker. Like I will say I start my day, and I switched over to the mushroom coffee, because I feel like that is like, my anxiety is so much less when I switched over to the mushroom coffee. Could I mix the two of them together, or should I try cacao on its own for a little while to see what the experience is? And so that I can, you know, because when you're working with plant medicines, like you said, working with cinnamon or adding different elements, it shifts the experience. So it would probably be better if I did one or the other, but not both at the same time.
Yeah. So cacao is caffeine. Oh, sorry, not cacao. Coffee is caffeine. Yeah. And so that will really change the experience for you. For some people, they get affected through caffeine different ways. Also, I have found it's very interesting, because I also enjoy coffee. I love coffee, and I've never actually mixed the two, although you can. I would always say start your own experience with just cacao. So experience cacao on its own, experience this journey, experience the consciousness, experience the honor, experience yourself through the consciousness, go through this beautiful experience. And then, of course, you can do whatever you wish, mix cacao with your coffee, whatever you wish. But I always tell others, in terms of ceremonial drinking, you certainly could have coffee and cacao mixed. But I really feel like the intention of this medicine is so strong, and in all of its beautiful ways, to be experienced on its own or with another plant medicine in it. Okay. So coffee is not a plant medicine, but I also love coffee. And what I do is I just enjoy it separately on its own, coffee, maybe some days, maybe not others. But you absolutely could add the cacao. But if you're going to experience ceremonial cacao, do it on its own as well, and just experience it on its own, because that's really only what I know. I'm just sharing what has been an incredible experience for me, and also this connection that I've felt that I've created with the cacao. It really is such a journey to experience the honoring of it on its own or with another plant medicine. Like I remember in the beginning when I was working with the shaman, and I wanted to understand the indigenous. I wanted to understand how they would drink it, everything about it, as I started to connect on my own. And I did what's called dietas with plant medicines. It's where you drink the cacao every single day, or any of the plant medicine that you're doing a dieta with. You're drinking it every day, and you're connecting even deeper. So you have an intention over a certain few, day period, certain days where you're going to be connecting really deeply. And so with the shaman, I think it was my third or fourth dieta. This one I wanted to drink for 40 days straight. I wanted to really connect for 40 days. This one was my longer one. And she had said to me, okay, you've had your cacao dietas before. You've had several before, 7 days, 14 days, 1 month. Now you want to do a little bit longer. Why don't we add CBD to the cacao? And she said, she was saying she was feeling like the CBD with the cacao mix, the two medicines together, is going to be a beautiful journey for you now. And I did. And it was beautiful to have a little drop of the CBD in there every day, drinking it, connecting with both medicines. And I really feel also that typically up until now, we're learning that many of these medicines have been taken separately, independently. Mm-hmm. And as we are starting to expand and to go through this incredible shift in consciousness, perhaps, in ways that maybe are beyond what we've experienced before in humanity, I don't know, but I certainly know that all of these medicines are coming quickly to us because we're all open now, we're ready. The time of mixing is a beautiful time. Whatever, depending on what's happening in your heart, if it feels right for you, connect. Like for me, I'd like to always check everything with the cacao consciousness, or with myself, or with any consciousness, my higher self. I always check in, I'm feeling like maybe this wild orange. What do you think? Is this, and then I just check in, yes, and let's go. So it's just creating that beautiful journey of going within, getting information and insights and knowings quickly. And then just, being that expression of love that we are.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is, we are the expression of love. Thank you. That is the end punct. And, like it is what we are. Two questions that came up while you were talking about that. One is, do you think that people should journal while they're doing their cacao? And would they call it a dieta when they're working with it? So, is that more?
Yeah. So journaling is something that I actually spent a time, especially in the beginning when I was drinking cacao, where I was doing a lot of journaling as well. And then I went through a time where I wasn't journaling. I was just kind of like everything was coming through me. So I love journaling. I think it's beautiful because it's our mind's moving so fast. And sometimes we're not really capturing all of it. Whereas the pen and the paper, we have to slow down. We have to be like, okay, wait a minute, what was that next thought? And what was the next thought? And let me write down the next thought. So I love journaling for that. Yes, whenever I have cacao ceremonies, I invite everyone to bring their journal. So bring a journal, bring a pen, so that if things show up, like I'm a big writer, I have my book that I created. It's a planner, and every single day I write in it thoughts, ideas, or things to do. So yes, journaling is beautiful, especially if journaling is something that, if you haven't tried it, you have to try it. It's incredible. It's going to change your life. But at the same time, this sort of non-attachment, that it may work at some point. It may be something that aligns with you at one point, and then maybe it's not, and then you come back to it. So that's all beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then your second question, what was it again? It was, Dieta. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be something that would be more led by a shaman or by somebody who has experience with the ceremonies, and it wouldn't be like something that you would necessarily be leading yourself.
Yeah. So that's a very good question, because I encourage people to drink the cacao every day. And I don't use that terminology, dieta. We get to that place because you're right. It typically is guided. So you can either drink cacao every day, enjoy it, experience it, go through this journey of, experiencing and experiencing yourself. Then there's two other things. There's the dieta, which is the shamanic way of calling it, the dieta, which is where you take any of these plant medicines and you work with a shaman or someone who's very familiar with the plant and has also experienced many dietas and has a sacred relationship with the plant. And they help you to connect. They help you to, what's going on for you, talk to me. And it's that beautiful integration. What's very interesting is in my journey, I kept asking the cacao, how can we share this with others? How can we get the whole world, my vision of everyone, especially all the world leaders? Can you imagine them starting their day at the boardroom table with a cup of cacao? I mean, ideally they would start with ayahuasca, but so it would be hit really hard, but cacao, gentle, beautiful. And so I kept asking, and it was such a beautiful experience. I received an exact formation of what I don't call a dieta. I call it a deep dive with cacao. It's a cacao consciousness deep dive, where the cacao was sharing with me certain things, certain temperatures. When you're on a deeper dive with someone who has experienced the cacao in many sacred ways and has a sacred relationship, even things like getting it to a certain temperature, then back down, because we know in our world, in our 3D reality, when we change the temperature of certain things, we can change the physics, we can change the thing itself. And so the messages from cacao was getting to this specific temperature a couple times, and this sort of way of drinking is allowing the person who's committing for that period of time, in this case it's 16 days, to take the cacao is taking it even higher into an even more elevated space. And I guess because that messages came through me and it was really my experience, part of that is in helping others, especially who feel they want to connect more. They really want to tap into their intuition. How do we make that happen? And for me, it's just being that bridge to show them, here it is, here's the answer. I'm going to share with you, because every time I do that 16-day deep dive, people will come to me in the middle of it with, oh my God, this thing just happened with my boyfriend. I don't know what to do. And I'll just say, okay, guess what? Guess who you're going to have a little conversation with tonight? And because we normally do that. We'll call others, we're upset, whatever. And it's the 16 days of, okay. And the guide is there to help. Okay, that's beautiful that you're experiencing. This is perfect. All this stuff is going to come out during these 16 days because we're asking for it. We're not just going to sit here and have nothing happen. Cacao's going to bring these triggers and things into our awareness. And then how do we go within? How do we go back, speak it, and then understand that as you're speaking to the conscious, you're actually speaking to yourself. You're learning to activate that intuition, the wisdom to access the oneness. And so it's a beautiful journey.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. And people I saw that you have your ceremonial set on sale right now, on a really good sale, actually, on your website. Yeah. So how can people purchase the cacao and use it in their own home?
Well, it's interesting, if I can just share too, that is kind of like a little digital program I created, because I found, like me, when I was first interested in this, I was looking everywhere. I had so many questions. What's going to happen to me when I drink? Is this going to happen? Can I go anywhere? What if this happens? All these questions. So I created that digital program with all these beautiful bonuses. And that's my way of just helping the novice, right? Helping somebody who's getting that calling, that tickling, cacao is calling to them, to just go through the experience of it. So yeah, ceremonial cacao you can buy anywhere. Just search it online, ceremonial cacao. I have my brand, Goddess Temple Cacao, as well. And it's at goddesstemplecacao.com. And then of course, all my social media is Goddess Temple Cacao, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. And on there, I also have a YouTube channel, Goddess Temple Cacao. And I'm really excited about posting these weekly videos with just a little tiny something about cacao. So for instance, I just talked last week about just intention, when we set an intention with the cacao. The week before, it was like an 8-minute mini cacao ceremony. So let's say you want to do one, you're not sure how to do it, it'll take you through the whole little ceremony yourself. There's one video that's all about, what to expect when I drink ceremonial cacao. That's a beautiful video. I actually have that. Plus I have this beautiful PDF that I created, which helps you to connect with the cacao, how to create here it is. How to connect with the cacao. It's a double-sided PDF. How to create a sacred space.
Nice.
Yeah, just a bunch of sacred geometry too, if you wanted to do a little bit of coloring every day. What to do now when you have the cacao. So there's different steps. So take it, look at the surface, allow yourself to literally lose yourself in this hypnotic surface. Observe how hypnotic the surface is. So just the different ways that you can do that. So I have this also on my site. I have this and the video of what to expect. That is a beautiful gift that I have right on my website for anyone to go and just leave your name and email and you'll receive those 2 gifts. And then I love to tell my story. So once you're in, I spend a few days sharing how cacao came into my world, how it transformed my life, little, other affirmations that's come to me. I share that through a little bit of an email sequence. And then of course, YouTube, I'm constantly sharing YouTube with others, new videos. So subscribing there would be a great idea if you're curious about this and just watching those videos. There's lots of goodness on there. Even how to cook the cacao. So there's a video with me at the stove, mixing the powder with the paste. You can just use the powder or you can just use the paste. I love to mix the two. And so the tea, how does the tea work? So all these great videos you can get from there.
Oh, that sounds wonderful because that's important to learn all of that. It's not like you can just go and buy it from the grocery store and throw it in a pan and, just drink it up. You would probably get something from it. But if you take the time to actually learn how to work with it and learn how to honor yourself and this medicine, mostly this, and make that space, that's the important part of the process.
It's so important. And it's important to acknowledge how has it been experienced. And the indigenous, it's been honored. Like it's been, whenever there was disharmony in, whether it was the tribe or the group, it was coming in circle. There's this harmony. Let's drink and open up our hearts and get to a place of harmony. When there's clarity that was needed, the indigenous, when they needed to clarify, should we do this? Should we do this next step or whatever it was? Let's do this as a group. Let's ask for the clarity as a group. Let's all drink together. The intention is to get the clarity and then to open up the circle. What's everybody feeling and experiencing? So when we understand and acknowledge what has been, then we can continue what has been and perhaps, go into your heart, speak to the cacao. Are there other medicines you can now bring to this as well? Or do you wish to continue it? It's completely up to you. But I always say, people will come to me with, I want to do cacao for children, little circles for children. I say, that is incredible, beautiful. And guess what? Here's your cup. Because you're going to now ask the cacao for guidance to do that because the answers are there. Right? Again, it's so funny. We're just so conditioned. Well, let me plan it myself. When really, if we just tap into through meditation, through plant medicine, through whatever modalities that you're using, medicines, the information is going to come through us. And that's the shift, I think, right now is understanding that we can either plan with our logical, limited mind, with what we think we know, which is that little sliver of consciousness, or we can say, okay, you know what? Here's my big vision and intention. Show me the way. I call it the yellow brick road. So I say, cacao, show me that next yellow brick and make it really obvious for me so that I can step on that brick and then the next brick's going to show, but here's what I'd like to do. And it's a journey because we're so used to, but no, now I got to plan and I've got to do my research and that's good too. But when we rely only on that and we don't ask, then we're not tapping into the fullness of who we are and why we're here, especially right now.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Because, and I think that's what trips people up a lot of times is they expect to have all of the answers right in the moment. And it's just like, you might not be ready for it. You might not have all of the pieces in place. You might need to learn something new or meet somebody new or have new guidance or, and so, I love that. Allow it to kind of unfold before you and just trust that it will.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Trust. It's so beautiful.
Wonderful.
Trust in the metamorphosis, right? Trust.
Exactly.
Beautiful experience we're all going through right now. Earth, all of us, this beautiful shift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And embrace it and just accept it and trust it. Yeah, I love that. Judy, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And again, you can find the cacao ceremonies, the ceremonial cacao paste, the guided ceremonies as well on Judy's website. That's Goddess Temple Cacao. That's CACAO.com.
Yes.
Correct?
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So everybody, I will put the links in the show notes below and have a look at her site. And of course, it sounds like you need to try some cacao. So thank you so much. And this was Sue from Spiritual Business Spotlight. Talk to you soon. Take care.